Hey everybody, welcome back to the You Are Not Broken podcast. Today I'm going to have a very awesome, funny, I'm already like projecting that we're going to be funny, Erin.
That's okay.
Podcast with Erin Keating, who makes hot stuff for women over 40. She's the founder of the Hotter Than Ever, a media and lifestyle company that creates media experiences and products that empower and light up the lives of women over 40. She hosts the Hotter Than Ever podcast, which is amazing, and she's an Emmy and Peabody award-winning media expert who's combined her producing acumen with her irreverent and authentic voice. Thank you for being here.
Oh my God, Kelly, I'm so happy to be here.
How did we meet? I'm so glad we did. I'm like, thank God we podcast so we can be friends.
I know exactly. I think we met because of the internets.
Yeah. We're both like, we need guests for our podcasts. And
Yeah.
then we're like, oh, you're funny.
Yeah.
And then we see it in each other.
Yeah. Yeah. We just want to hang with other like-minded,
I
amazing
literally
women.
want to write comedy and laugh as a job. And I'm collecting friends who do this now.
Yeah. I mean, that was my career. I was a TV executive for 20 years and my focus was comedy. And the best thing about it was I got to laugh every day. It was like officially part of my job. Like, did this make you laugh? I mean, joy.
I love it. Dude,
Yeah.
let's go there because I love comedy and we're talking about women. Women in comedy.
Yeah. I didn't even know we would go here, but I'm happy to go here because women in comedy is my favorite. I mean, comedy is my heart and soul because comedians are the truth tellers.
They're the modern philosophers.
Yeah, yeah. And they say the things that are on all of our minds that we wish we could say.
Yep.
And they take a lot of personal risk to do that. And I don't just mean like, oh, it's scary to get up on stage, but like for women to orient their lives around, especially stand-up, no, that's a hard life. That's a challenging life, and it's not set up for women. So, the women out there who are doing it, the moms out there who are doing it, God bless, because we need their voices, and they're organizing their lives in a really complicated way to bring those stories and those jokes to us. I feel very profound about comedy. I could literally talk about it all day.
Dude, I freaking love comedy. What's with the stereotype that women aren't funny?
Sexism and patriarchy? I mean, there's no other answer. That's not true. So
it's insane that people say that, or like you have to be hot to be funny. Like there's this there's this
that's
hotness
not necessarily
thing that happens.
true. No, that's not necessarily true because you look at the sort of earliest pioneers in comedy, Joan Rivers, Phyllis Diller, folks like that. Like Phyllis Diller specifically made herself unattractive so people would listen to her. And I don't think that's the same today. I think there's definitely, especially because of the internet and it's so visual, there's a lot of hot girls doing comedy, but historically, it's like, how do you get funny in the first place? There's got to be something you're compensating
childhood
for.
trauma.
Yeah. Yes. Childhood trauma, feeling like an outsider, feeling unheard. You develop this weapon in your arsenal for survival. And I think that's what happened to me. Yeah. I just never felt like I 100% fit in any group, but I could talk to everybody and I could joke around with everybody. And it's been an incredible secret weapon in my professional life because I can walk into any room and my body tells me make a joke.
Yeah.
And I know that's you too.
100%. To me,
Yeah.
I didn't realize that I thought in stand-up, that thinking in stand-up is a thing.
Yeah.
And that like me and my brothers, for whatever reason, grew up that way.
That's amazing.
Of like,
That's
you've
amazing.
got to take what's happening and there's a spin, there's a lightness you can find. And it's like, it's right there.
Well, it's such an incredible adaptive thing that we do, right? To take what's yuck or hard or uncomfortable or troubling and turn it into jokes.
Yeah.
And some of us get that tool and others don't.
It's it's coping mechanism.
Yeah.
Right? And then to be able to share joy.
Yeah.
Is amazing. I listened to Jerry Seinfeld's commencement speech at Duke that he gave this month. And his message was basically like, yes, go out and change the world, but don't lose your sense of humor, because if you lose your sense of humor, you don't have anything left.
That's right. And it's
And
a
I
quick,
thought
quick slide into fascism if we lose our sense of humor.
Yeah, and I thought it was a very good commencement speech. Like, it's got his usual shticks and his usual awesome jokes, but in it, there's a very it's the philosopher warning, right?
Yeah.
Like, warning, a world without humor is a bleak, bleak place.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think part of the mission of Hotter Than Ever is to light up the lives of women over 40, right? So part of my vision for the brand, beyond the podcast, beyond the Substack, which currently exists, I'm working on a 2-person show about dating online in midlife to empower women to not be scared of doing it. And then I also want to do a stand-up tour of women comics over 40 that will be much more fun than your book club. It's a better night out.
Totally.
So those are a couple things that I'm working on that are funny and fun, because I think what gets lost in the midlife conversation is pleasure and joy and fun and freedom. We're all doing a lot of problem solving around the burdens of our lives and around the changes in our lives and around our bodies, and how dynamics in our lives have shifted, our careers have shifted. But I don't want us to forget to have a good time, because I just think that's so critically important. And you can tell me biologically what's happening when we're having a good time. I can just say that I lost my ability to have a good time for a long time, and it's come roaring back.
When did you
50s.
know? Like, when did you know, like, there's more for Erin? Or, like, that you needed to jump ship? Like, take us through that transformation.
So I was kind of at the peak of my professional career. I was running scripted originals for a social media platform, and I was innovating, and I was working my face off, and it was like the biggest professional and financial opportunity of my life. And when I started that job, I had 5-year-old twins, and we had just moved to LA like 3 years before from New York. Because New York expired on us when we had to take a double stroller on the subway. I was like, no, did it twice. Like, we're moving across the country.
Like in an instant, New York just changes.
100%.
Right?
You lose the night. New York is night, and LA is day, and so that's better for kids. So I was working my face off. Right, I was in a marriage that wasn't going very well, but my career was going so well. And so I just threw all my energy into that. And I worked so hard that when I got COVID in the August of 21, when I was already vaccinated, I got COVID, and I kind of didn't take it seriously enough. And I ended up in the hospital with COVID pneumonia. And I was really sick. Like, they were like, right this way. And they showed me into a room.
Like, yes, you do get to come in here.
Yeah. They're like, no, we need you to come in.
Please
Actually, it's like on a doctor show. And they put me in a room by myself. And I had this experience of feeling like I was at a spa, or like I was at a retreat center or something, where I was like, oh my God, I'm alone in a room. No one can ask me for anything. There are people here who are going to take care of me, and all I have to do is rest and recover. And I was like, that's kind of fucked up. Like, sorry, am I allowed to curse?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It's how the healing happens.
Oh, good. There's a lot of healing on my show then. I am so healed.
I don't know how medical my show was. So healing.
So healing. So yeah, I mean, and I got flowers from a lot of people, and the biggest bouquet was from my job. And my husband was really struggling with just managing the 2 kids for the 3 days that I was in the hospital. He was very stressed. I mean, I think in reality, he was worried I was going to die. But the way he expressed that was to be angry at me for getting sick. And I had this thought on the day that he was coming to pick me up, like, this is not how this is all supposed to go. Like, there's like this in sickness and in health thing when you get married, and like there's a taking care of each other thing, and then there's a like I don't know, just I just, everything kind of, what's the expression? The scales fell off my eyes. And I came home, and this is insane, and I've never talked about this on a podcast, but I made a PowerPoint presentation. I needed to, like, that was the medium I was working in.
You
at
know
the
how
time.
many women that's going to resonate with are going to be like, yes, that in Excel, and that in an Excel spreadsheet.
It was called, "Oh my God, so much bullshit."
That was the name of your PowerPoint presentation?
Yes, it was. And it was just for me. It was just for me to express all the things that I had been lying to myself about in my life.
Amazing.
And it was pages and pages and pages.
Pages of lies.
Pages of lies, different topics around which I was lying. And it was like, oh no, this is the truth. And what I am living is not the truth for me. And so what became really clear, as my husband and I had a lot of conflict after I came home from the hospital, and I was still recovering. COVID takes a long time to recover from.
Mm-hmm.
We decided to go to couples therapy for a final time. We had been doing it for on and off for years and unsuccessfully. And, you know, at this point we were married. We were married altogether for 17 years. My twins are now 13. And we went to couples counseling for the last time. It failed. And then he moved out, in like 6 months after I got out of the hospital. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, that change was so huge and so hard. I mean, I do not want to minimize separation and divorce for people who are going through it or thinking about going through it. It is hard. But what immediately happened for me is that I came back. The self that I had loved in my late 20s was a little wilder, a little bit more fun, not holding so tight to everything, sensed possibility in everything, incredibly optimistic. Like, I had channeled all that stuff into my work, but all I had time to do was work and parent. You know, I didn't really have the bandwidth. I didn't have interests or hobbies or a lot of friendships that I was really maintaining. Like, I was surviving. I was not thriving. Even though from the outside, all the cash and prizes, you know, I had just bought us a house, like all the things. But it wasn't good on the inside. It was painful on the inside. And so I set myself free. And then like 8 months after that, I got laid off from my fancy corporate job. And I was like, oh my God, I have a clean slate. And I turned 50, which is, you cannot underestimate the power of turning 50. It just like slams you in the face. And it was a gift. The whole thing was just an enormous gift. And so I went on a retreat in Italy, did a little eat, pray, love action. I just started dating online. I hadn't had sex for 10 years. So that was one of the first things that I really wanted to reclaim was like, where is my pleasure? Where is my orgasm? Where is this part of myself that I had loved about myself as a young person? I loved sex. I loved being sexual. And I thought I was going to have that my whole life with my husband. And just, you know, sometimes the way things go with relationship dynamics and trust and children and the burdens of your life and responsibility and resentment when you're carrying everything, when you're carrying the domestic load on top of your professional load and top of being, you know, bringing in most money. And I mean, it is a lot. It is a lot.
It's a ton.
Like, yeah. And then how do I get to a place, and how does my ex at that time, you know, my husband at that time, like, how were we going to get to a place where we wanted to connect in that way, or where it didn't feel scary, or like someone was going to get hurt or rejected? Like, we just had a lot of that. So yeah. And reclaiming pleasure and sex and my relationship with my body just became a huge part of my reinvention and my rediscovery of myself. And I'm still there, you know, I'm still in that spot. And I decided, I had been making media for other people. I had been really promoting other people's dreams. People would come in with brilliant ideas. I would help them make them into TV shows. And I was great at that. I am great at that. I'm continuing to do that, but I'm doing it now for us. for women in midlife, because I always programmed for young men. I was, programmed in the comedy world. That's always the perceived target, is men like 35 to, 50 or whatever. I think things are changing a lot in that world, but that was who I worked for. And then when I worked at the social media platform, I programmed for 13 to 24-year-olds, which is a whole other thing. But I was licensing my voice, my mojo, my, everything to a company. And I could say what I needed to say within a box, but I couldn't say everything, hence the PowerPoint presentation where I said everything to myself for the first time. I just started to think, like, what's next for me? And I knew I loved talking to people. I knew that the best part of my job as an executive developing shows was the first time when I met them, and we would like be mining for ideas and talking about like who they really are and what lights them up and what's their expertise and what are they into and how can we shape that into a show, or how can we shape the thing they brought in into something that's right for the platform that I was buying for. So I just was like, I think I just want to do a podcast, because I was obsessed with podcasts. Mainly comedy podcasts, but I've expanded my palette. And so I thought, well, that's got to be easier than making a TV show. There's no video, but and it's been great. And I'm like 80 episodes in. I've been doing it for a year. I'm doing 2 a week, and I launched a Substack newsletter, and I'm really enjoying writing and that muscle and really building out the premise of the business and looking for business partners and doing all of it, all the stuff that I never bet on myself with before when I was younger. I never was, people would say, bet on yourself. I'd be like, what does that mean? Like, I really.
Right. Do I put money in my pocket? How does betting on myself work?
Yeah, exactly. And now it means like taking some risks and being uncomfortable and trying new things and putting myself forward and being like, okay, like, I guess I'm the talent now. That's weird. But I had been an actor. I had studied theater. I had just put that all away in order to have a career. And
there's almost a coming homeness. And like, I mean, I think what we do, I'm stereotyping, but like women, we read these woo-woo books that tell us to like, love your body, listen to the inner child. And it's like, you don't actually know what that fucking looks like until you do it. Because I'm like, that's what Erin's doing right now. She's loving herself. She's going back to what lit her up as a young person, and she knows with all the boots on the ground years that you've done, you know that there's a business here now. You can survive. You can survive by freaking following your intuition.
Yes, and it's so interesting because I think a lot about credibility in women and how we don't think we're legitimate. Like, we often need permission from someone to do something. And I
in the medical world, we collect certificates.
Oh, is that right? Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have that certificate yet. I need to go get one more. Blah blah. I'm like, people make shit up all the time. There's coaches for menopause that now have certificates. Like, it's all made up.
Well, everything is made up, right? Everything.
It's all made up.
And so once you get underneath that and you go, well, I'm like, what am I an expert at? I'm like, oh, actually, I'm an expert at the journey that I've been on, the expertise that I bring to the table from my previous life. I think I come with a certain amount of outspokenness and enthusiasm and clarity of thought that, like, and I know I'm a leader. I know I'm a leader because I was a leader in my professional life. I've always kind of been a leader, and I've always been scared of it, because I think we're taught this definition of power, which is a male definition of power, which is power over and domination. And I mean, that's fine in certain contexts, but it is not how women do power. It is not how women do power. We do power we do collaboration, we do support, mutual support and partnerships. And like, you can be ambitious and hungry and do all of that at the same time. So, hotter than ever, like, I'm sort of, my philosophy is pro pleasure, right? Like I'm all about like what gives you pleasure, what lights you up. That's sex, but that's also your senses, your body, your relationships, your experiences. Like live in your body in the world. And pro power, which is about agency, and it's uncomfortable for women to talk about power. But what if you took control of your life? What would that feel like? And then profound, because you don't get to this age and want to have shallow conversations. You know, we need depth. Like, and that's every time I talk to an expert in menopause, they talk about how estrogen drops, your desire to accommodate drops. You don't have to fit into the tribe anymore, because if you had children, were built, you know, with fertility. So if you had children, you needed them to be accepted and supported by the community. Well, once you get to this age, fuck it. Fuck it. I never had the fuck it when I was younger. Now I have the fuck it in spades. I'll say whatever, talk to whoever, do whatever. Because what, like, at what cost? Like, who cares?
I know. I mean, I have this profound, and I don't think everybody has this thought that I have of like, you guys, I'm gone. Yeah. I'm gone. In like maybe 50 years. Who knows is the actual term. But it's like, we're fucking gone. So wake up. And like, this is a gift. The abuse that women do, that we're fed to, we're fed it. We do not come out of the vaginal canal hating our bodies. Right? We had to learn it, and then we had to agree, subconsciously or not, to perpetuate it on ourselves.
I feel that. I did that. I do it a little bit still, but I do it so much less.
Right. I'm at least conscious of it now when I'm doing it. But like, the power of loving yourself is amazing. And that's what I hear reflected in your story of like, you decided to frickin' love on air.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you realize, oh, this is everything.
This is everything, and this is us. I mean, this is us. This is, you know, I'm super Gen X. And I'm real scrappy, and I'm real independent. I let myself into the house with a key every day and watch 3 hours of TV. Thanks for my career, Mom. You know, but that self-sufficiency is a survival tactic, and it's, you know, I had that, but now I get to do something different. You know, I get to do something different. And women have never been more powerful. Women have never had more agency. Yeah. We've never had the positions professionally that we have now. You know, we don't own the hedge funds. Like, you know, the patriarchy will hold on as long as it possibly can, because they control the bigger mechanisms of things. But what I see in my peers who blow me away every day, like you, Kelly, is taking the reins of power and going, you know what? I sense something wrong, or I sense I can make a contribution to this conversation. I'm just going to like step just a little bit out of my lane, a little bit out of the box, a little bit out of what I'm supposed to do, so that other women can hear me. And, you know, and that's how you start a revolution.
That's how you start a revolution. Let's talk about sex and dating in LA in midlife. Yeah. And how it's going. I mean, because I have so many women who are, you know, sexless, husband died, got a divorce, maybe they're still in the marriage, whatever. Pick a fucking scenario. It's all the same. Of like, it's either like us, where it's like, I used to love this, and now it's, you know, Wonder Bread, it's flavorless. Or the people who are like, I never liked this, but what is it? I'm curious. Right. So like, how did you like tiptoe yourself into the dating sex scene after being, maybe the words out of practice?
I'm gonna clear my throat for this. You know, for me, I had always been very orgasmic, and I had kind of lost that. Like I would masturbate, and I couldn't quite get myself over the edge of orgasm because I was so disconnected. Kelly, I was so disconnected from myself, my body. I was a head separated from a body. I've always had body image stuff, always been heavy. Like, there's a lot of reasons the culture told me to hate myself. And I was like, I'm on board for that. And when I started to not be on board for that, and I wanted to sort of reclaim every aspect of my life, I started with my orgasm. So I went on the App Store.
You took your phone, you went on the App Store,
and I typed in dating apps. And there were all kinds of ones I had never heard of. I'd heard about Tinder. I had heard about OkCupid, Match.com. There were old school ones. I met my husband online 1,000 years ago in the early 2000s. We were like, there were not a lot of us at that time. Now I feel like it's completely normal. That's how people date now. And especially post COVID in the Zoom era, like you're not out in the world meeting and flirting with people. Like you're actually intentionally dating via apps. And so I went on this app that was completely anonymous. It's called Pure. It's basically a sexting app. And I put up a profile that said, I'm 52. I'm out of a long relationship. I'm ready to be brought back to life. Can anybody help?
And it's anonymous.
No pictures, no nothing. Fake handle, like nothing that could tie to my identity. And I was just like, what is the risk here? There's no risk. Like, let's just see what comes back. Turns out, men love a challenge. And I literally was flooded with requests to connect. I literally was flooded. And I read them, and then like one person said some things that resonated with me, and we started a conversation. And I never met him in real life, and I never saw his face, and I don't really know if anything he said to me was true. But he coached me to finding my orgasm again. Yeah.
What?
So he was very experienced, and he told me what toys to buy, and he told me what to do, and he told me when to do it. And I did. And it was so thrilling. I don't know who this person is, but this person gave me an enormous, I've never told this story on my podcast. It gave me an enormous gift. That really got me reconnected with myself, my body, my pleasure. I walked around like, woo, like zip, lit up, like I'm back, baby. And then I was like, okay, I think I can do this in real life. And so I made a profile. This is all a marketing exercise, ladies. This is about trying to get the job. You want the job offer. You don't have to take the job. You want the job offer. So you got to make yourself enticing. My whole game, though, was be honest, be straight, be direct. There's no reason to lie or pretend about anything. And look for authentic connections where you really vibe with someone, and stay online and talk to them for as long as you want, until you feel comfortable, and then get on the phone. This is my advice to people, and this is what I did, and this has worked for me again and again, actually. But so get on the phone, have a grown-up phone conversation, like old school style. Kelly, is my internet messed up? Is my internet was messed up there for a minute? Okay.
No, mine too.
So where I'll go back. Do you edit? I hope you edit. Okay, good.
Yeah, we edit.
I can go back to it's a marketing exercise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So online dating is a marketing exercise. Ladies, get over it. Like you're putting yourself out there, right? You want to get the job offer. So it's like when you go in for the interview, I'll just use, career metaphors. when you go in for the interview, the point is to get the job offer, whether or not you know you want the job. So the idea with online dating is to make yourself appealing, put out a version of yourself that you think is appealing, and see what comes back. And, you know, for me, after having lied so much in my life, my goal was to be honest, to say, this is where I'm at. This is what I'm looking for. This is who I am. And to really try to authentically connect with people. And my philosophy of dating is like, I just want to date people who I enjoy hanging out with and who I like to have a conversation with and where the sex is really hot. So like, that's my criteria.
How many of those people live in LA?
As many as you want.
like
as many as you want.
2 million?
Yeah,
It's like you know, the crayon box that the rich kids got in elementary school that had the sharpener of like 150 different colors.
Yeah, it's delightful.
You have all the crayons in the crayon box.
All the crayons in the crayon box. Right, even cerulean. Which
is a beautiful blue for those who don't know.
That's how I learned my colors. Yeah, so I think, you know, I just, for the first person that I actually met in real life, like, I sort of picked a guy who I thought was cute and kind of punky and kind of had an obnoxious, like, jokey attitude. Like, that's, you know, that was very familiar to me. And he had a really interesting career, and we talked about that, and like, you know, and I grew to trust him because I went from talking on the app to talking on the phone. And for me, I just feel like there's like a hierarchy of communication, right? Where you get more and more information. So talking on the phone is a thing that a lot of people don't do. They go straight from the app to meeting in real life. For me, talking on the phone is like, I need the data that my body receives from a phone call.
Yes.
And also how we vibe. And also if they actually are smart, like need them to be smart. And so, you know, and then I met this person in real life, and he helped me out a lot. And, you know, we went out a couple times. It didn't end up being like a fit. And I'll say I wasn't looking for love or a relationship. Mm-hmm. I was looking, this was for me, right? This is for bringing myself back to myself. And what is amazing with these dates too is that I use them as an opportunity to communicate better than I did in my marriage, to be more direct and honest, and to have boundaries in a way that I never had before. That sometimes you trample your own boundaries in the name of, why can't we all just get along in a marriage? And a lot of us build that into a practice. And I certainly did.
Yep.
Where I was like, let's just get through this. I'll throw myself under the bus. You know, I'll take whatever shit is handed to me, because I have kids and I have a career and we've built this whole thing. And like, you know, when you are single and you're dating, for me, when someone acts in a way that I don't like, I can say it because the ties are so loose. And so I have increasingly gotten better at saying, hey, this is good for me. This is not good for me. I need you to do this and not this. And, you know, in my experience, people rise to the challenge or they don't.
Are you there?
And if they do, if they do, they're in my life. And if they don't, they're not. And like, to your point of dating in LA, there are plenty of fish in the sea.
Yeah, totally. Have you noticed, as you've gotten to know yourself better, as you've gotten to know what authenticity looks like?
Yeah.
Can you see that more clearly in other people now?
Yes.
That makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Like you can tell when there's a veil over somebody and it's not really them. Yeah. I feel like I'm getting better at that skill.
Yeah. And I also think, you know, part of what I like to do, it's worth it to me in relationships with the women to have, to go first, you know, to be the one who's more revealed and more more just putting it all out there. Because that's just who I want to be in the world. And I want that for other women too. And I think sometimes when I do that, it gives other women permission to do that. And I've developed so many friendships in this period of my life because of that. And it also helps in dating because I can kind of see like, oh, this person has made no effort on their profile. No thanks. This person is only is not revealing anything about himself that is authentic. No thanks. This person is raw and angry. No thanks. And this person is negative. No thanks. Like, oh, this person is saying where he is. Oh, I'm a year out of being married. Oh, catch them right when they're out of being married. They're very horny. They're making up for lost time too. That's a fun combination. And they really want to please you. That's my game. Yeah, ladies, there's a lot out there for us if we're willing to put ourselves out there. And I think people ask me a lot about safety and dating online. That's part of why have a phone conversation, but have it on Telegram where you can block your phone number. You just have a handle. You can still remain anonymous. Do not give random dudes your phone number. It's tied to all your data on the internet. Like, take care of yourself and go slow. Do it incrementally and meet for coffee in a public place for your first date. Do what feels good to you. Have a dating buddy, where you can drop a pin and tell them where you are if you're worried about that. Take really good care of yourself. Yes. I was not always that careful in the beginning, honestly. I was a little cavalier, and part of my journey about this stuff is coming to care for myself in this context as well. To be really conscientious about how I handle everything. And, I don't feel like I was ever at risk, but there were, you have to speak up for yourself. You have to say what's what for you. And the right people will totally get that and totally hear that and totally appreciate it, because we all live in a world where everybody's lying all the time. You know? So if you're not, and you say, I like this, I don't like that, I'm comfortable with this, I'm not comfortable with that, it gives other people permission to do the same thing. And then you're on a really good basis with someone. So
that is super good advice.
And
I want to wrap up by talking.
Can I just say one more thing? Don't date like you're 20. Don't date like you're 20. You don't need to meet this person's family. You do not need to have babies with them or buy real estate. Like, date like you're a grown-ass woman. Know what you're in for. Know what you want. Know what kind of connections. How much of an emotional connection you need. How much of intimacy you need versus sex. They're two different things. And set about with clear intentions and know that you are so desirable. You are so, even in your however year old body, even in the skin you're in, you are so desirable. And a lot of the time it's just you.
Were you blown away by that?
Yes, I had no idea. I didn't know
because
if I was
I think of the average woman, they'll be like, you're divorced, you got kids, you're midlife, you're like, what the fuck? And then these people who want to date you are like begging to date you.
Oh my God. And young guys too. There's too young for me. So I have some friends who date guys in their 20s. They're too dumb and they're terrible communicators, but they're hot. But I fell in love with a guy who was 40 and we had a beautiful relationship for a year. And his whole thing was he had decided he didn't want kids. And the women his age all wanted to wife him up. And he was like, I don't want that pressure. I'm attracted to older women. You're really confident. I'm interested in you. And we had a healing and cosmic kind of connection for a year. And then we didn't. And because I don't have a destination in mind, you know, I'm just trying to live and feel and experience things. And I know I'll want something different at some point, but this is where I'm at. And I let myself fall in love with him. And it was amazing. And I was willing to get my heart broken, and I got my heart broken. But for a while there, I did not have my heart broken. I was just in it, and it was gorgeous, you know? And he was not a guy I would have ever thought would have been interested in me. So you just never know. Stop making assumptions about yourself.
Oh, that's so good. Let's tie that into when we finish it up. When you talk about how to embrace your fuck it era and do what you want. Because you got to get rid of the perfectionism of doing it right and comparing to how other people are doing it, which I think are iron curtains for people figuring out what the fuck you're supposed to do with your life.
Yeah, I mean, I went on this retreat in Italy, and I went with a woman named Sherry Salata, who was, you know, she ran OWN, Oprah's network with her. She was an EP on the Oprah show. Now she's a guru in her own right. And she said one thing to me that she said it once, but I've heard it every day, which is, how much time do you think you have left? How much time do you think you have left? Like, get on with it. Get on with it. Stop living somebody else's life if that's what you're doing. Like, I would watch my friends who were divorced and be so jealous of them. And you can't admit that to your husband, right? But I just thought, look at the freedom they have. Yes, they have a lot of constraints. Yes, it's hard to be a single mom. Oof, I did not want to be a single mom. What are the stories that you're telling yourself that constrain you about who you are and who you have to be and what the rules are? Because we are all following these unconscious rules. I have to be this. I have to do that. My life has to look like this. My life has to look like that. If I don't have this, then I'm not that. Take a look at that stuff.
Yeah. Are you doing it right?
There's no right.
There's no
right. There's only you and what you need. And sometimes we override what we need personally because we want to fit in and we want to be societally acceptable. You know, for me, like, this is a huge crazy risk that I'm taking. I'm going to talk about my sex life publicly. Like, who does that? But I feel like, first of all, I'm tasteful in the way that I do it. And second of all, like, why not? Why not? What is this rule that says we have to be a perfect automaton robot at work and a perfect wife, mother, person at home? Like, where are you? Where is your joy? Where is your spirit? Where are you laughing? Are you laughing? You having a good time?
Yeah.
Or does it just take, or do you just allow yourself Chardonnay? Because Chardonnay and SSRIs are kind of all that's on the table for us. That's not all there is in the world.
Yeah. I love that. Why do you think, I'm going to wrap this up going back to the stand-up for a hot second. Chardonnay and stand-up.
Yeah.
Why do you think a lot of stand-ups are sober?
Whoa.
I mean, you know more about stand-ups than I do, but there's what I see is there's this huge underlying theme of sobriety. And my take, you know more than me, so I want your opinion. My take is two things. Number one, you have to feel all your feelings when you're sober. You don't get to mask anything. And there is an absolute truth that comes with the full life experience. So I think that's number two. Number one is you got to go through some shit to be a stand-up comedian, and alcoholism is that shit for a lot of people.
I think it's the underlying stuff that leads to being a stand-up comedian and an alcoholic.
You're like, it's the childhood trauma for all of it.
I mean, and I am a huge believer in the 12 steps, and I did 12 steps for food for a long time, and it really helped me heal a lot of my childhood stuff. I highly recommend Overeaters Anonymous to people who are struggling with compulsive overeating and various disordered food stuff. I think your normal people don't stand in front of a crowd of people and make jokes. So, you know, you have to have a certain combination of childhood trauma, balls, and a sense of humor, to use that as how you cope with life. That you need laughter as your drug. You need that approval. You need that like blast of you're good. You're good. We like you. And I think alcohol does a similar thing. I think drugs do a similar thing. I think food addiction and sex addiction do those things. They help to numb whatever was going on that led you to this life. And then to sustain that career with the grueling nature of, you know, the sort of energetic demands and psychic and emotional demands of that career, it's real hard to do that if you're battling alcoholism. And so I think people want to be successful at the end of the day, and they want to be well. And, you know, and I really am like so happy for the people in comedy who have found sobriety, and who have found help and have gotten their lives together in addition to their careers, because they deserve that. They're giving a gift and 100%. A service to the world, and they don't have to suffer to do it, although they probably do have to suffer to do it. They don't have to suffer with addiction to do it.
To any comedian who's listening, I love you. I think you are amazing. I mean, I think people who don't drink, this is what I've found in my journey, of people who don't drink, they are comfortable with all the feelings. They want to connect deeply. They don't numb. They're like, I don't numb. I want to experience. And it's a different person, and I love them.
I don't know that they're comfortable with all the feelings. I think that they're willing to feel the feelings.
Well, yeah. I mean, some feelings don't feel comfortable, but they're like, this is, I'm just like stereotyping an entire profession. Sorry. But people who can, like, I'm feeling shame. That still doesn't feel good, but they're aware of it.
And they're willing to say it.
So
for
many
those
other
of us
people
who
are
can't
like,
say it.
Yeah.
No, it's amazing. It's amazing. I admire comedians. I met some guy on an app, and he was like, "What are you passionate about?" And I'm like, "Comedy." And he's like, "Really? Like, genuinely? You're passionate about comedy?" I'm like, "Yeah." And then I unmatched him because I was like, "You don't get me." And then another guy literally said to me last week,
"There will not be a thesis.
This is not going to happen." Yeah. This other guy said to me last week, "A woman who loves comedy is the hottest thing I have ever heard of." And I was like, "Oh, okay. When are we going out?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh, I'm your girl then. You know, that's hot for you."
A good friend of mine who is a surgeon as well is married to a professional comedian. Two of them. I know two female physicians married to professional comedians. That means there's probably more. But I'm just like, how does this work? I love it. I love all of how this works.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. Oh, I love talking about comedy with you, Kelly. Well, Kelly, your stand-up career is going to be incredible. It's going to be incredible.
We're gonna talk. Yeah. We're gonna talk offline about. But we're publicly saying she sees something that I think is. I know it's there.
I see it.
And so you're my friend forever, basically. Yeah. Good. So now, here we are. Any final thoughts for the women who are listening? What do you want to fucking tell them?
I mean, it's just possible to be happy. It's possible to be happy and to have joy and to experience a good life. And it may not look exactly like you thought it was going to look. But the deeper you dig into who you are and who you want to be in the world and what lights you up, that's what I want for you. You know, I want that for you. I want that freedom and that lit upness from you. And then you
know it when you see them too.
Oh my God.
You can tell.
Yeah, I'm literally like a child running down the street going, "Children!" Like I was an only child. My mom's. So that's what I did. But that's how I feel when I'm around other women who are lit up. I just feel like, oh, thank God. Look at us. We're incredible. We are incredible.
Yeah. It's an energy, man.
Yeah. Can I brag and share a little bit about how people can follow Hotter Than Ever and find out everything? So go.
Yeah, and all the links are in the show notes. But please
amazing. Share. I hope people look at show notes. I spend a lot of time on my show notes.
I do not.
Yeah.
But I put
So
important things in it.
I'm a nerd, so yeah. So
You made
Hotter
yourself
Than
a
Ever.
PowerPoint presentation with a title.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Hotter Than Ever. Look for it wherever you find podcasts. I would love to have you come and listen to the show. I do advice episodes. I'm totally unqualified to give advice, but I'm opinionated and empathetic. And so I'll give it my best shot. So you can call in. I have a hotline, or you can text or DM us. I have a Substack, which is also Hotter Than Ever. If you go to my website, I have an article you can download about how to thrive after divorce, how to start to reinvent yourself. Look for shows and products and media. Just like get on board because you are hotter than ever. It's just about bringing it out in yourself.
Yes, and a plug to women and men, all genders, supporting women-created comedy,
100%.
media, theater, music, all the things.
Yeah, we're great
Representation
at it.
matters.
We're great at it, and I'm going to help us tell our stories.
That's awesome. Thanks for
Oh my God,
joining
I love
me.
you, Kelly.
Love you too.